Is back into it in Chester. Here's El Senior. Yes! Yes!
The center back, Jacob Glesnes,
He's going for it.
Yes! Oh my goal! What a goal!
And that will do it! One of the best comebacks in recent years. 3 unanswered by the Union. And they go into the Gold Cup break, winning it 3-2.
Hello and welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd. And what a night it was Friday night as the Philadelphia Union demolished DC United 7-0. And, I mean, that game. There is so much to talk about. It should be all great things to talk about in that game, which, there definitely is. But, leading up to that game where the Union announced the selling, the trading, whatever you want to call it, of Sergio Santos to FC Cincinnati, to then the 7 goals, and then you have the whole penalty drama. It was a lot of different emotions on Saturday. And then you had fireworks after the game, too. And then I saw the Union, at it, DC United, and asked them, do you guys stay for fireworks? Oh my gosh. Not only did DC United get killed on the field, their social media team, I don't know how you find it in you to tweet after you get destroyed 7-0. I don't even think that they tweeted back at the Union. Then I saw the Union go after the Nationals on social media. The Union social media team was definitely feeling themselves Friday night. But yeah, all in all, fantastic night for the Union. Glad the rain stayed away. People got to enjoy fireworks, and everybody got to walk away the stadium happy. But there was news that happened over the weekend. Like I said, the Sergio Santos news. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Stuart Findlay news. We'll talk about Toronto FC's blockbuster deal. Just a whole bunch of news to talk about this weekend. So without further ado, let's just get straight into the news. So I'll leave all the Union stuff for the end. I want to go ahead and talk about the Toronto information. And so like I just mentioned, Toronto FC agreed a blockbuster deal to acquire Canadian international Marc-Anthony Kaye from the Colorado Rapids. The Rapids will receive Ralph Priso around $1 million and GAM, a 2023 international roster spot, and Toronto's first-round Super Draft pick in the upcoming Super Draft in... when is that? December, January, for the next season. So, all in all, it's about $2 million in GAM, Tom Burgert says. And Tom Burgert was saying, he's like, yeah, I wouldn't expect Marc-Anthony Kaye to move anytime soon. Yes, there's interest in Marc-Anthony Kaye, especially after Colorado, are having a terrible season after they had a fantastic season last year, making it into the playoffs, getting the first spot in the Western Conference, but getting knocked out by Seattle, was it? Just not the season that Robin Fraser and Colorado would have hoped that they would have had this season. The big thing for them is, I've talked about it in the past where they've needed on number 9. They go out and get Zardes from Columbus Crew, but we all know, wasn't getting it done in Columbus, so that's why they were comfortable in getting rid of him. Colorado sitting 12th in the Western Conference, 5-5-8 on 20 points. In 7th place is Nashville with 27. Colorado have played 18 games while Nashville have played 19. So, Colorado are nowhere close to a playoff spot. Still a ton of the season left to be played, but Marc-Anthony Kaye, there's a guy that we know Colorado got last year from LAFC in a huge blockbuster trade that sent Kalen Acosta to LAFC, and it looked to be a pretty even trade. Marc-Anthony Kaye had a fantastic season with Colorado last season, but they're just not getting done this season, and Toronto have been making so many moves this season in Bob Bradley's first time at the club. He is truly trying to make the club his own, trying to get them to where the Toronto fans want them to be back, and that is in the MLS Cup final. They go out, we all know, Insigne, they go and sign an Italian left back. They're in the talks to get another Italian player from Juventus. So, I mean, Toronto are making moves, and Marc-Anthony Kaye, I think, MLS fans know that this is a huge move. But I feel like the league knows this is a huge move as well. But all the talk's going to be on the Italian players that Toronto are getting, and Marc-Anthony Kaye is going to take a back seat. I mean, they're definitely going to talk about this move and everything, but I mean, you look at that roster, potential roster for Toronto. On paper, they look like they have the most stacked team in the Eastern Conference, and you look at the West, LAFC on paper look like they have the most stacked team in the West. People are like, oh, well, we'll see a LAFC, Toronto FC final, but MLS is so hard to predict, and it's all sports when people look at teams that, just make these super teams where they go out and get all these superstars and like, oh, well, look what so-and-so team did, how much money they spent, look what player they just signed. They're going to go to the Super Bowl, they're going to win the World Series, and more times than not, it doesn't work out. And so I would not be surprised if, things in Toronto don't click right away. I wouldn't be surprised if things with Gareth Bale and Chiellini and LAFC don't click right away. I see a whole bunch of people talking about LAFC, wanting a DP number 9, where they already have a good striker, in my opinion. I think we talked about it last week when we talked about the Gareth Bale deal. I know for a fact we did. And what people around the league are saying, they're like, you guys need midfield help. Yeah, you guys have Kylian Acosta, but Blessing isn't really getting it done. Defensively, you guys look sound, but teams are just cutting right through you in the midfield. But you guys are so focused, worried about getting a DP number 9, where you should be focusing on the middle of the field. But we'll see what LAFC do. Like I said, they have another DP spot that they can go out and sign. Don't even get me started on Gareth Bale again. I see Ernst Tenner came out complaining about Chiellini and Gareth Bale becoming TAM deals, how he said he doesn't understand it, how the max salary both of those players can make this season is $1.6 million, where Ernst was like, Gareth Bale was making $38 million in Real Madrid last season without taxes being taken out. The salary that he's getting here in MLS, that could have been tripled, quadrupled from teams in England that were interested in him. And so Ernst Tenner doesn't really understand how Gareth Bale can be a TAM player, but we're not going to have that discussion again. I mean, we all know that MLS turns a blind eye to the teams in LA. We've seen it with Zlatan, we've seen it with David Beckham, we've seen it with Robbie Keane, with the super teams that the Galaxies have built over the years, and now we're seeing with LAFC when they get these two huge European players. I know Chiellini's near the end of his career. You can say the same about Gareth Bale, but these are respected players throughout Europe with their countries. Only making $1.6 million doesn't make sense, but I don't want to talk about that anymore because we talked about it all last week. But yeah, Marc-Anthony Kaye to Toronto. I mean, the Rapids are getting a good player in Ralph. He's a 19-year-old defensive midfielder, will turn 20 years old in August. Made his debut with Toronto in 2020. 25 appearances in league for Toronto, 2 goals. Had a goal this season. Has played with Canada's U15s, U17s. I mean, this looks to be one for the future for Canada. This is a player that, Toronto were doing a fantastic job developing, but, you're in a mode right now to win it all. And if you have the opportunity to go out and get Marc-Anthony Kaye, you're going to go ahead and do it. Giving up $1 million in GAM, I feel like, that's the starting point we're seeing for a lot of these players that are getting traded throughout MLS go for. A 2023 international roster spot, we know that's huge, especially during the season where teams want to go out and spend during the secondary transfer market, but they might not have international roster space. So teams will have to pay a premium if they want to get that space. So, I mean, if Colorado next season doesn't fill out all 8 spots, all 9 spots now, I guess, with this 2023 spot, they can hold on to that and sell it for a ton of money in the summertime. And then you get a super draft pick. Well, we know in Philadelphia, the Union don't do anything with theirs. But, you can still find players through the draft like a Ben Bender, like Chris Donovan, who got drafted by Columbus, didn't get signed. Now he's with the Union, been given an opportunity. And now with the trade of Sergio Santos, yeah, for sure, Chris Donovan's going to continue to get opportunities with the first team in Philadelphia. And I guess now that we're on the topic of Sergio Santos, it was announced by Tom Bogert, I believe on Thursday, and then the Union announced on Friday, right before the game, that the Philadelphia Union has acquired a guaranteed $300,000 in 2022 general allocation money, GAM, in exchange for Sergio Santos. And the Union could acquire up to an additional $625,000 in GAM if certain performance and contract conditions are met. The Union would also retain up to 50% of any future trade fee Cincinnati receives for Santos's rights. And so, right away, I mean, the Union getting a 50% sell-on clause for Sergio Santos, that tells me right there that Cincinnati are not going to sell Sergio Santos. I mean, Sergio is a good player. He's not a great player. He's not a superstar by any means. And unless he absolutely goes to Cincinnati and tears it up, somehow finds a way to stay healthy, unlike was the case in Philadelphia, then there's no way I see Sergio getting sold from Cincinnati and then the Union getting 50% of that deal. There's no way I see that happening. I mean, it's even possible, too, that after the season, Cincinnati can go ahead and not extend Sergio Santos's contract, let him walk. I mean, fans are talking on social media, yeah, that's part of the reason why the Union got rid of him, because of how much money he was making with the Union. He was making over $900,000 with incentives and everything if they were met. And people like that's a lot of money to pay a striker that can't stay healthy, that's really only a bench option. But for me personally, I didn't mind the Union paying that much money to Sergio Santos. And I know the salary cap's not higher, but if the salary cap was higher, then I feel like that money would be like nothing. But I know you guys are going to say, well, the salary cap's not higher. And a team that doesn't go out and spend money, a player that's going to be primarily on the bench, why are you spending that much money on a player where you can go ahead and spread out that money in certain areas? And I definitely get that. And I think, $300,000 for Sergio Santos, a player that had less than a year left on his contract, I think that's good business for a player that can't stay healthy, a player that's only left-footed, a player that, has trouble at times finishing, a player that's really only known for his strength and speed. It is good business when you look at it at a business standpoint. But then you go ahead and look at it from a team's perspective. Sergio Santos was the fastest player on the team. His speed just makes an absolutely huge difference for whatever team he's on. He spreads the defense out, runs into the channels, takes sometimes 2 players to follow him. Now he's opened up a whole bunch of space for teammates to run into. So, I mean, not having that is going to kill the Union, in my opinion. It's something I've thought the last month that they've lacked is speed. A player coming off the bench, and it really showed when the kids were away at the U20s where, yeah, Corey Burke has speed to him, but he's not the fastest player. Chris Donovan has a little bit of speed to him, but both of those guys I feel like are better in the air than they are known for their speed. And yeah, it hurts losing Sergio Santos because of that. And then you look at the relationships that he had in the locker room where everybody loved this guy. You saw on social media, Kai Wagner, Jose Martinez, Andre Blake, Corey Burke coming out in support, not happy with this move. And I don't know, I feel like maybe seeing those players comment, especially Jose, maybe that should have been telling for what was going to happen during the game Friday night. But you're always going to have players upset when their buddies get sent away. But I feel like fans, media people, whatever, aren't used to seeing players on social media speak out on said moves. Yeah, for sure. In their private conversations, they're for sure talking about these moves. But on social media where everybody can see it, yeah, you don't really see that. And so, I mean, this is definitely a tough one. It sucks. And I guess the good thing is, Sergio has been away for so long and that, we kind of got used to not relying on him, not playing with him. We have to rely on other areas of this team, not Sergio Santos, because he was away in Chile trying to get his green card, which then should have been telling as well because the Union had international roster spots, so it wasn't a huge deal to get Sergio's green card finalized. But at the end of the day, it's a business. It's always a business first, and Ernst Tanner's job is to put the best team out there. And so, if he thinks selling Sergio Santos is the right thing to do to get them more GAM, which he said a week ago that they didn't have a ton of, and they would need to accumulate more money if they were going to make moves. And that's what they do with the Sergio Santos deal. And then you go ahead and look. Kevin Kaye tweeted out that Stuart Findlay is reportedly being sold. Then reports came out that he's being sold to Oxford United of League One, third division team in England. Tom Bogert came out and confirmed those reports too. Now, I can tell you guys, Friday night I saw Stuart Findlay up in the press box area. He has not been in England yet. So I would assume that he hasn't taken his physicals yet, because when that news came out, it was the same day that the Sergio Santos news came out on Friday, and they go ahead and don't confirm this deal, the Union, that is. They only confirm the Sergio Santos deal. But Tom Bogert, Kevin Kincaid are both in the know. They are always spot on with the information that they get. And when I said that Stuart Findlay was in the building, I feel like maybe I gave people false hope that, okay, he's not getting sold. Yeah, I think, he still has to take his medical. He has to pass his medical and whatnot. I think it's telling that he wasn't on the bench Friday night against DC United. Brendan Craig was. But it's weird because you had Jim Curtin constantly, I mean, not constantly, but was asked about Stuart Findlay often. Stuart Findlay said publicly multiple times that he wants to play, but he understands that he's behind Jacob Glesnes and Jack Elliott. And Jim knows that he wants to play. He wants to get him playing time, but how can you when you're behind the two of the best center backs in MLS? The only way you do that is you switch your formation up to play three in the back, which we did see recently, but I don't know how committed the Union really are to playing three in the back. So there's a player that just wants to play more, and you can't blame him. When he came to Philadelphia, they had a need for a left-footed center back after Austin Trusty was sold. I know Jack Elliott's been doing a fantastic job playing as a left center back, even though he's right-footed. But you have a player that's going to be 27 years old in September, a player that wants to play consistently, wants to get called up to the Scotland national team a lot more often than what's been the case, because he's only played one time with Scotland. Did score in his debut. But all in all, it makes sense that Stuart wants to go back to Europe, to go someplace to get more playing time. It sucks that, he just wasn't getting the playing time I'm sure that he hoped for when he was in Philadelphia when he was announced. And Yeah, it sucks because another great player like Sergio Santos for the locker room. You guys see what they do with both players on social media, but like I said about Santos, Ernst Tanner is going to make business decisions, and you get some money back for Stuart Findlay, you're going to go ahead and take that move. Now, the one thing I haven't seen is I haven't seen if it's a loan deal or if he's actually getting sold. But it's also, like, why would you go to a third division team from MLS? Like, that's, in my opinion, a step down. Doesn't make any sense at all. But again, I'll keep saying, it's a business first, and that's how Ernst Tanner is going to continue to treat the team. All right, so before we go ahead and talk about the Philadelphia Union and DC United game, I got to go ahead and give a shout out to Matt Ralph and the Brotherly Game because they invited me up this weekend to take part in the Icarus Cup tournament at Drexel and Temple University. My first time playing soccer since 2018 when I had concussions. Wore a concussion headband for safety, and a lot of fun and to get out there and play soccer. Definitely rusty. You know, I've known since, I don't know, 3, 4 weeks ago that I'd be playing in this tournament. So trying to run every single day, I was like, okay, well, I'll be in shape to play soccer. And man, like running distance and playing soccer, like being in soccer shape, like that stuff is like two different things. And I was like, wow, like it feels like I haven't been running at all. Like I was gassed, and then not playing for I don't know 4 years. My touch was terrible. I'm like, man, like this sucks. But had a ton of fun going up to Philadelphia, first time ever in Philadelphia, which might be surprising to some of you guys. And just because going to Chester, you guys are probably like, oh well, why won't you go to Philadelphia? Why haven't you been to Philadelphia? Just never been, and so was excited to go ahead and see the city. I know I obviously didn't get to see the whole city, but I feel like I got to see a good amount of the city and drive around. And I was very surprised that the city didn't feel like crowded. You felt like you were in a city for sure, and maybe some parts of the city it does feel like it's overcrowded. But I don't know. Everywhere that I drove around in Philadelphia, I didn't get that sense. I felt like the street signs were very well marked. I felt like it was just easy to navigate through the city compared to like an Atlanta or Washington D.C. or even sometimes Baltimore City. And all three of those cities are a lot smaller than Philadelphia. And yeah, seeing like the skyline from Temple University was a really, really freaking cool experience. Both campuses were really neat. The field was definitely, I feel like, better at Temple. Like they were both turf fields, but I feel like at Temple and maybe Drexel had this too, but I didn't notice it. Like there was sand and turf, and so it felt like easier to run on the field at Temple. But I mean, overall, I mean, it was a great experience to get out there and play soccer for the first time in 4 years. And just like I said, just very thankful for Matt Ralph and the Brotherly Game to invite me out there to play soccer. I want to give a shout out to everybody that, I was teammates with Joseph, Brandon, Hayden, Evan, Joe Lister, the Doopy brothers, AJ and Luke, AJ's wife, Caitlin, Billy, obviously Matt Ralph, and then you had Renee and Ryan, and just a great group of people to play soccer with. And it was just amazing to see like how big the soccer scene truly is in Philadelphia. I mean, to see just all these teams participate in the tournament and seeing not a ton of people wearing Philadelphia Union gear, but you did see people wearing Union gear, and that was nice to see. That okay, well, yeah, you expect to see like Real Madrid, Barcelona, Manchester City, Chelsea, like those kind of jerseys and everything. But to see people wearing Union gear, it's like that's what you want to see, especially for a team that plays in Chester. And the people that do live in Philadelphia don't want to support the Union because they don't play in Philadelphia. They don't want to consider them a Philadelphia team. But it was just I don't know. I feel like I'm like I don't want to say mind blown, but at the same time too, I do want to say mind blown because I don't know. Like I knew there was going to be a lot of people playing in this tournament, but it was nice to see just so many people that are playing soccer, and um, you do have your people that take it very very serious, and then you have people like us that are just there to have fun and everything, and um, yeah, just like being able to talk with every single one of my teammates about the union, all of us union fans, like you don't get that living here in Maryland, right? Where this is all I have to talk about the union is the podcast or going up to Chester talking about the union with people. But yeah, just to talk with every single person on the team about the union to talk about MLS, like I was definitely in my element, I felt like. And yeah, it's great to be around like minded people that feel the same way that you do about MLS, about the Philadelphia Union, that want the union to do good. And yeah, we might all have different opinions about players, formations, doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, we all want the union to do well. And it was just a really, really great experience. And I'm grateful for Matt for extending that invitation to me to, hey, come on out and play soccer with us. And got to give a shout out to Luke. I'm sure you guys will see the jerseys on social media at some point. But yeah, Luke from the Doopy Brothers, he designed a sick, absolutely sick logo. The jerseys were fantastic. Definitely had some ballers on our team. I was definitely not one of them. But hey, we scored goals. We had fun. Nobody got hurt. And I feel like that's what it's all about. Didn't get a concussion, thankfully. Definitely pulled out of some 50-50 balls because I'm like, oh, I know I have a concussion headband in and it's supposed to reduce concussions, but still a little bit afraid to head the ball. So I was like, yeah, I don't want to go out for this. But yeah, I mean, regardless, it was great being out there playing soccer. And it's funny because all of us last year complained about Corey Berg, Casper Shabelko's first touch. But my goodness, playing soccer, like, man, I feel like I can't complain about professionals' first touch anymore because I'm like, man, like my first touch was non existent. Thinking about running with the ball before I touched the ball, I'm like, man, like, I feel bad doing this podcast and talking about the negative stuff that the union do when I can't even do like two of the things that the union players do bad. So, but overall, it was a really really great experience. And if you guys aren't supporting the brotherly game, they didn't ask me to do this, but I mean they do such fantastic content with the podcast with the Duper Brothers. I know Matt will do podcasts every now and then. They do fantastic breakdowns, previews, match reviews. They dive into the national team. They do such great work getting the word out about the union. And then you have Matt Ralph that, man, like this is one of the most dedicated people that I've ever seen going around the Philadelphia soccer scene, taking pictures, writing about the soccer scene, about Casa. Like, I have no clue how this guy does that. I know I told Matt it on Saturday. I'm like, man, I don't know how you do it. And he's talking about, you got to strategically plan, okay, what games you're going to shoot and everything. And okay, what time of the games and everything. But man, like, I, I knew you broke it down to me, Matt, but I still don't know how you do it. I feel like every single day you're going to watch soccer. And then, like, if you're not in Philadelphia, then you go down to New Jersey sometimes. And I'm pretty sure I've seen you cover the Ocean City. Nor'easters, right? That's the team. Northeasters might not be. I'll look it up. But regardless, I mean, it was a fantastic weekend, and to get back there and play soccer with, like I said, just like-minded people that support the union, support MLS. It was great, and I'm just really, really grateful for the opportunity, and yeah, the Ocean City Nor'easters. So. Uh, That was just off the top of my head. But um yeah, I'm just really, really grateful for that community. I'm really grateful for the community that we have here that covers the Philadelphia Union. Whether it's the people that get paid to do this, whether it's the people that freelance, whether it's people that are trying to break in to in the scene. It's I'm definitely biased, but when I look at the New York Red Bulls coverage, when I look into DC United's coverage, I feel like those teams are lacking. And we have so many different content creators, so many journalists that are covering the union. And, as fans, I feel like sometimes we take that for granted. And I got to give a shout out to Paul, Justin, and Zach as well from Sporting Serotonin. It was great talking to those guys. And again, just more like minded people that care about the Philadelphia Union, care about MLS, care about soccer. And just watching great soccer on the day. They're a great team. And their calls with Sporting Serotonin, I'm sure you guys know about them. Um, they care deeply about mental health, and that's what the whole club's based on, Sporting Serotonin. And so it was just an unbelievable weekend to get out there and the quote unquote play soccer. But I don't know, I just really enjoyed the conversations with people, getting to explore Philadelphia, even though I know I did not explore the whole city, but to be in Philadelphia for the first time, to play soccer for the first time in 4 years now. Next year, if we decide to do the tournament again, I might need to kick a ball around, work on my touch better, and not make that my yearly time that I play soccer. But all in all, just a fantastic weekend. And you throw in the Union game against DC United 7-0 after the Union announced they sold Sergio Santos, and apparently Stuart Findlay is on the way out to Oxford United, like we talked about. It's like, like it makes sense why these guys are gone, but at the same time, too, it hurts because they were both great characters in the locker room. But seeing that 7-0, playing soccer, just being a part of something, it felt really, really good. So, as always, I talked about last episode, supporting local broadcasters and how the saying's always support local soccer. But for sure, support local soccer, support each and every one of these journalists that cover the Union, support Brotherly Game. There is people have said to me in the past, like, oh, well, there's all these other Union podcasts and everything that do the same thing that you do. Like, I feel like some people are like, they make it into a rivalry, but I'm like, no. Like, I'm proud of what the Dupree brothers are doing. I'm proud of what Views from the Bridge are doing. I'm proud of what, Deep by the River are doing. I'm proud of what all the other Union podcasts are doing. I feel like Dupree brothers are doing. I felt like I left out so many other, because there's like 6 or 7 Union podcasts out there, or content creators, whatever you want to call us. And just to see people cover this team, it's very, very special. And like I said, not a lot of teams have what we have here in Philadelphia, and I'm thankful for that. And I'm grateful that we have such a tight, close knit group of people that want to see the Union do well. People that love soccer and want MLS to do well in this country. But what a game! We've been talking about the Union not scoring goals this season, or a ton of goals, 7 goals against DC United. It was, I mean, we all complained about the Union not creating enough chances, Union not finishing their chances. And look, 7-0, that's a huge scoreline. The Union definitely could have won this game 9-0. There was definitely chances where Nate Harriel should have put the ball in the back of the net. Julian Carranza has his missed penalty. Julian Carranza had a header that he could have hit in. Just so many opportunities in this game for the Union to have more than 7 goals. And you guys know I've been following this team hardcore since 2019, with joining social media, starting the podcast, going to games, watching every single away game on TV, etc. And since I've been following this team, the talk's always been people comparing the best players in Union history or the best Union teams in history. Everybody wants to talk about history, and something that the Union continue to do is make history. And we really are in the golden era of Union soccer right now, with playoff wins, most wins in a single season, winning the first trophy in team history, absolutely destroying the goals for record, least goals conceded. I mean, everywhere you look, there's just history being created ever since Ernst Tanner has taken over as the sporting director for this team. You have Julian Kranz and Daniel Gazdag, both tied at 7 goals this season. They could break CJ Sapong's club record of 16 goals scored during a season, which was set in 2017. But, I never expected to see the Union put up 7 goals in one game. Like, we talk about it all the time, the golden era of Union soccer. I just mentioned it. It's right now. But I never thought the Union would put up 7 goals. And Friday was just something truly, truly special. And the Union just continued to do what they've done most of the season, and that's scoring first. But not only that, they've scored the league high 7th goal of the season within the first 15 minutes of the game. No other teams are scoring as fast, as early as the Philadelphia Union this season. And, I'm going to keep going back to what I kept complaining about last season, and that's how the Union kept getting scored on in the first 15 minutes. And it's been the complete opposite this season. The mentality has completely shifted from starting slow to now starting fast. This team scores the most goals in the first half, 17, and concede the fewest with 4. They've only trailed once this season, and that was against Montreal, which the Union came back and won that game 2-1, 2 goals in the second half. The big concern, though, for the Union have been, 1, conceding too many goals in the second half, and then 2, not building on the lead. Friday night was only the second time this season that the Union have scored more than 1 goal in the first half. They scored 5 in the first half. And, the Union want to play this fast transition, risky passing soccer. And Jim Curtin talked midweek about wanting more meaningful possession, that the passing can be better. And Friday night against DC, the Union led in passing 83% and possession 54%. And I asked Jim Curtin after the game, is this something that could be a recipe for success for you guys going forward?
I emphasized we're still going to be ourselves and let's be sound defensively. All 11 guys committed on the defensive side. But tonight, let's be brave and show that we're a team that can pass the ball. It's on ESPN. The league is watching. Let's be us. Let's be brave. Let's have the ball. Let's be better in the attack. And that might mean the defenders are a little more aggressive going forward and joining in. Like I think you saw tonight with Kaye and Nathan, and the amount of times that they're on top of DC's box in good positions to score goals. It also means the forwards moving a little more cohesively. It means Daniel doing a great job counter-pressing and winning balls back close to their goal. So we wanted to be braver offensively, and I think we were. I think they got the message, and it was overall a strong performance from us.
Yeah, and people always talk about, well, the Union can't pass. And Friday night, we saw that the Union can pass, and they can also possess the ball. They've shown what they can do to teams when they hold on to the ball. And I know I've complained multiple times when teams play low blocks and they're forcing the Union to have possession of the ball, the Union struggle breaking teams down. And I know I've said in the past where I think the Union need to go out and get another player that can take on players 1v1 on the dribble, players that can play those line-splitting passes. And I know that wasn't really the case Friday night against DC because the Union scored early, and then right after they scored, they got another goal. And so DC couldn't play in a low block. They couldn't sit back. They had to come out and attack. And so because of that, the Union were able to possess the ball and then break down DC United with their passing, forcing DC United to come out of position to press the ball. And when they press, then the Union would have a guy wide open. And then that player would be able to take on the player 1v1. He would have so much space to dribble into, or then he would have a guy wide open. And so the Union were moving the ball fast. And this is what Jim Curtin wants. He wants them to play fast possession soccer. He wants them to play these long balls over the top, transition ball. And you did get that at times, like the goal we saw with Bedoya. Jose Martinez plays a beautiful ball over the top to Bedoya. Bedoya is coming in from the wing, cuts in, barely onside. Beautiful finish from him. But the Union, they don't get away from who they are, who Jim Curtin wants them to be this season. But what they did prove is that they can pass the ball good, that they can break teams down with passing the ball. Part of that reason, like I said, is because the Union were up so early on. And when the Union do go down, or if the game's tied, the Union are going to have to find a way how they can break teams down like they did against DC United when the game's tied up or when they're trailing. That's still not been seen with this team when that's been the case. I know it's not been often, but when it has happened, the Union haven't been able to do that. And so, it was good to see the Union finally lead a game in possession and passing. Jim talked about midweek, like I mentioned, wanting to have more possession, wanting to have more meaningful passing. He also talked about not knowing his best formation for this group, whether that's playing three in the back, where he said after the game in Columbus that, okay, yeah, we like the idea of three in the back. It worked well, and we might be able to use that more times than not. We saw last season 4-3-2-1 with this team. So, I mean, this team does have players that can play in multiple positions, different formations. The diamond there, I think we're going to continue to see going forward, especially with Sergio Santos gone, with Stuart Findlay reportedly on the way out. That kind of defeats the purpose of playing three in the back, in my opinion. So we'll see what the Union do formation-wise. I think it's still going to be the 4-4-2 diamond. And look, I know DC, they gave up 7 goals on the night, and I know looking at that scoreline, people are going to blame the goalkeeping, the defending, which was horrible on the night. But I think my biggest takeaway is, DC, they were losing those 50-50 balls, the second balls. They were getting out-muscled. They showed no heart. And I get it. They had a game on Monday, and then they had the quick turnaround for a game on Friday. But still, to go out there and not put in any effort, that's really, really poor. And usually when you see teams get battered like that, they're trying to get the manager sacked. And maybe that was the case Friday night. Because earlier on Friday, rumors were circling around that Wayne Rooney was going to take over at DC United. Stephen Goff of the Washington Post, he came out and kind of shut down those rumors, saying what to know about the Wayne Rooney DC United links, as reported by the Daily Mail. He said Rooney and his agent are on good terms with DC United's ownership, and they've been in talks with Wayne Rooney as Rooney seeks a job after Derby County, but he's exploring options. DC has said Chad Ashton is in the job through the 2022 season. Search for a permanent manager must follow MLS's diversity protocol. Now, I know I'm recording this podcast on Sunday night. I know there was pictures online circling that Wayne Rooney is on a flight from England to DC, adding more fuel to the fire that he's going to take over at DC. But maybe DC players, maybe they perform like that to send a message to the ownership. Even though they want to wait until the 2022 season's over, maybe the players want to say, hey, look, get this guy out now. And even if the players want the manager sacked, I think that's just a poor mentality, in my opinion, to play so badly that you get your manager sacked. You see it all the time in soccer where that's how players send a message. Sometimes they speak through the media, but sometimes, they don't try in the games. They get absolutely demolished. And then afterwards, all the reports are about the manager losing the locker room. The manager this, his tactics don't work. And then the manager gets sacked. It's never the players. It's always the manager. Maybe that's the case with DC United on Friday night, but, regardless, that's just, if you're a DC fan, you can't be happy with the way that your team performed, showing no heart out there. I mean, yes, they were bad defensively. Yes, they were bad in the goalkeeping department, but more than anything, it came down to DC United not showing any heart at all, in my opinion, and that's why they got steamrolled. But there were so many special moments out there from this team Friday night. But one player that's going to continue to get overlooked, because he's always overlooked, and that's Leon Flock. And I'm not sure how much you guys noticed this one Friday or not, but Leon at times was more advanced on the field than Kai Wagner. I know you guys just heard the clip from Jim Curtin talking about Kai Wagner and Nate Harriel being pushed up in advanced positions to cross the ball in to be on the side of DC's box. But there were times in the first half where Liam Flock was in more advanced positions than Kai Wagner. And Liam Flock gets his assist on a great pass to Julian Kranza. But that run that he made to assist Julian, that's something that he did earlier on this game where I know it was Gazdag to Leon to Julian for the goal, but we saw a sequence of Mikhail, Leon, and then Kranza. Kranza makes a good run to the far post. Leon plays the ball to the far post, but the ball gets there just a tad bit early ahead of Julian Kranza, and he misses a easy tap-in. And so it was just nice to see Leon Flock and Julian Kranza finally capitalize on that same play again, to see Leon Flock show, hey, look, I can help this team offensively. Yes, primarily I'm going to help out defensively for this team. A lot of this team's success is because I'm turning the ball over in the midfield, because I'm staying back, protecting us in case we get counterattacked because Kai Wagner is going so far up. But it was nice to finally see Leon Flock join the attack. His passing, in my opinion, is getting better the last couple of weeks. And that's something that I hope continues for Leon Flock. But, speaking about playing a little bit of a different position, Jim Curtin spoke about changing Ale Bedoya's positioning for tactical reasons for this game against DC.
We asked Ali, I don't know if people noticed, but we asked Ali to play a different role tonight. He dropped almost as a right back because we saw maybe a soft spot in their defense. Fontes is incredible scoring goals going forward, but we also saw that if we could put Ali on the ball on that right side and have Nathan be very high and pin back their wing back, we could create some problems. And I think we did that successfully. And you have a decision maker in Ali with so much experience on the ball on that right side. I think it gave DC a lot of problems. Once we played passes that eliminated Fontes, Ali had time and space, and we could kind of pick them apart a little bit. So Ali does whatever's asked of him. He's an incredible pro. He's the reason this franchise and club has taken the strides it has. And then to get 2 goals, obviously, is huge. And maybe he should have took the penalty kick, too, in hindsight. Just kidding, Julian.
And don't worry, we'll talk about the penalty next. But, I've been one to give Pat Noonan a lot of credit in the past for what the Union did last season, especially tactically. Pat Noonan was Jim Curtin's right-hand man. But it was nice to see, okay, Jim Curtin admitted that we made a tactical change against DC. We looked at the data. We looked at their games that showed that, okay, look, this is going to be a weak spot for DC. So let's drop Ali back, get him on the ball a little bit more, push Nate up. And you saw a lot of opportunities come exactly like that for the Union. The first goal that the Union scored, Ali and got in behind DC's back line. Great ball, like I said, from Jose Martinez. And Nate was absolutely dominant on the right side of the field. Should have buried his chance. Got in behind the defense. I think he thought about it a little bit too much. Got on his left. I mean, you don't get an easier chance than that to score. Had a wide open net. I know they said on the broadcast, like, man, he could have tapped that in. I think, his speed, the moment got to him and he places the ball wide. But then the Union, like we've complained about so many times, they're not going to capitalize on their chance. They create a chance and then fail. Well, they come right back and score a goal to go ahead and put the team up 2-0. I believe that was Julian Kranza's first goal, the bicycle kick. But, nice to hear Jim Curtin announce that, we changed something tactically. So, for me, for people out there that don't think that Jim Curtin's a good tactical manager, which, I'm not saying that he's not good tactically. He's just more of a man manager. That's what he's known for. But for him to come out and admit that, we changed something tactically because this is what we believe would work, and it worked. Full credit to Jim Curtin and his coaching staff to admit that this is what we did, and it worked. But, of course, there's got to be some sort of controversy from this match, even though the Union scored 7 goals. It was the Sergio Santos news before the match. But then the Union put up 7 goals, and that kind of takes your mind off the news. But you have the whole penalty spat between Jose, Ale, and Julian. Jose picks up the ball, wants to take the penalty, but Julian wants the penalty because he'll have a hat trick if he scores. Ale steps in, takes the ball from Jose, gives it to Julian. But in that moment, in my opinion, neither one of those guys should have taken the penalty. They weren't concentrated. They were both arguing. Their minds aren't focused on this penalty. And I think that moment there showed that this team is a little undisciplined. And I've thought about that the last couple of games now. And it all started, in my opinion, when they were in Chicago, when Daniel Gazdag and Kai Wagner pick up stupid yellow cards in that game. You have Jose taking his time getting off the field, and then he's arguing back and forth with a fan. And now you throw this penalty drama in the mix again. And why do I say again? Because if you guys remember the home game against Orlando City last season, when Casper and Jose argued who would take the penalty, Sergio Santos draws the foul. Jose wanted the penalty. Sergio Santos is advocating for Jose to take the penalty, but Casper winds up taking the penalty. Why? Because Jim Curtin tells us after the game that the name on the penalty list on the board was Casper. Casper would take all the penalties if he's on the field. So Jose and Casper apparently didn't speak to each other anymore after that situation. Apparently they still don't talk to each other. The locker room, it took a big swing and then being divided. And it was already divided with the whole Jamiro Montero situation with him and Kai Wagner getting into an argument down in Miami after the game where Ernst Tenner steps into the situation. And you saw this offseason, what does Ernst Tenner do? He goes out and gets rid of the two locker room issues in Jamiro Montero and Casper Shabelko. And now you have Jose Martinez and another penalty spat with another teammate. You see Jose post on social media over the weekend an emoji over Julian and Ale's face that apparently meant Jose doesn't have respect for Ale anymore, and he's basically telling Julian to STFU. And I would not be surprised if Jose is gone this transfer window, if the locker room is truly going to be divided once again. Ernst Tenner goes out and makes sure that the players he's buying are going to fit into the culture of this team, to fit into this locker room. That's not going to disrupt this locker room. And if Jose Martinez cannot get over his anger with LA and Julian Kranza, then he has to be gone, especially since the season's only halfway done. I know the Jamiro situation happened when the transfer window in Europe was open, but nobody was interested in Jamiro Montero, so you can't sell a player where players aren't interested in taking him off of you. So stays with the team, stays away from the team, then eventually gets reintroduced into the team. I guess that could happen with Jose Martinez, but I don't know. I don't know. I feel like there would be more interest in Jose Martinez. It would be easier to find somebody to take Jose from you than it was trying to shop Jamiro Montero last summer. But I just would not be surprised if Ernst Tenner is shopping Jose Martinez right now, trying to get rid of him because of that whole situation. Because Ale and Julian both said after the game that, there needs to be a talk about that situation that occurred. Jose Martinez is still fuming with that situation. Like I said, on social media, you guys may or may not have saw it. Ale said after the game as well, he said it's pretty telling that he wasn't arguing to take the penalty, even though he could have had his first career hat trick. And to see Jose Martinez go berserk like that, to see him act childish and say he has no respect for LA anymore, where he's telling Julian to STFU, that's not good. And Jim Curtin was asked about that whole penalty miss after the game, and this is what Jim had to say.
I didn't find out till later. I think there might have been a message on Jose's shirt for a certain someone. That's a farewell message to someone afterwards. That's what I've heard. I didn't learn that till afterwards. So, yeah, But then in hindsight, I go, well, Jose, if he takes his shirt off, it's a yellow card and he's suspended for the next game. So you're kind of going, if this was the plan, guys, maybe you should at least fill the coaches in on that, because that's not good either. So a lot of different things have been talked about. And again, we'll have a laugh about it at the end of the day. But just for the record, Daniel is our designated penalty kick taker, unless it's 6-0, I guess. So.
And Daniel Gazdag wasn't on the field when the penalty kick situation occurred. So I guess if Daniel was on there, then Daniel would have taken it. I mean, I know Jim just said, well, if it's 6-0, then Daniel wouldn't have taken it, but he wasn't even on the field. But, I have respect that Jose wants to send a message if he scores a goal, show his shirt, to pay respects to Sergio Santos. But like Jim said, I mean, if he takes off his shirt, he's getting a yellow card. Now he misses the game against Inter Miami. You're already going to miss Julian Kranza in that game because he's on loan, can't play against Miami. And so now what do? You don't go to a 3-man back line because Stuart Findlay is apparently on the way out. Do you play Leon Flock there at the 6? Yeah, I guess you do. And we know Leon doesn't like to play as the lone 6. You're not going to play Jack McGlynn as the lone 6. You're not going to play Brendan Craig or Cole Turner or Jesus Bueno as the 6. So, yeah, you would probably play Leon Flock and then Matt Real on the left side of the diamond, which I know fans aren't happy with that either. But, yeah, just not a great situation. A situation that could have been avoided. Yeah, and so, I mean, hopefully the locker room's not divided. Hopefully LA, Julian, Jose, Jim can all sit down and they can repair this issue. And hopefully Jose can get over it. But like I said, we saw what happened with him and Casper last season. So, and apparently they still don't talk. So I would bet against Jose for giving LA and Julian Kranza, since he's apparently still mad at Casper. But we shall see what happens in the coming days. Hopefully nothing more. But, a couple things I want to mention before we get into my stars, and then we'll end the podcast because this is a long episode, and I should get Blunder of the Week to ESPN, because you guys know I love breaking down the goals the way I see it. But what I noticed, I was trying to record the videos, but because the game was on ESPN's national broadcast, somehow they blocked out my recording service. Well, I couldn't record the game, but then if I went on ESPN Plus for any other game that was on local broadcast, even though it was streamed through ESPN Plus, I could record the game. So I never knew that was an issue, where ESPN blocked out the actual national broadcast games from being recorded on ESPN Plus. But yeah, now I know, I guess, going forward. But like I said, just some stats I want to talk about real quick. The Union tied the largest margin of victory in MLS history with a 7-goal differential. I believe the record was set in 98, a 8-1 victory by the Dallas Burn. That is a huge throwback. I definitely wasn't watching MLS back then. How many of you guys were? 2, Ale Bedoya is the third player in team history to score 20 goals and notch 20 assists. The Union scored 5 goals in the first half for the first time in their history, becoming only the 5th club to do so in MLS regular season play. Ale Bedoya and Julian Kranza are the 4th pair of teammates to score a brace in the first half of a match in MLS history. They had 3 players on a brace in this game until Julian got his hat trick. Crazy, right? And then Kai Wagner now sits at 4th place all-time in Union history in assists with 24. Like I said, first career hat trick for Julian Kranza. I thought DC United were just horrible at marking set pieces. And by the way, Tom Burgard, he's like, yeah, I think this is a great time to tweet this out now, that Kranza's option to buy from Miami's $500,000 in GAM. Oh my goodness. What a total mess up of a situation by Inter Miami. You pay $6 million to get Julian Kranza at your club. Then you send him on loan to Philadelphia for, I think, $50,000, something like that. And now his buy option's only $500,000. What a deal by Ernst Tanner. This guy gets praised all the time. $500,000 for Julian Kranze. Kasper Shabrelko went for $1 million. Sergio Santos, with 6 months left on his contract, went for $300,000. And then that can go even higher if incentives are met. Julian Kranze is better than both of those strikers. And his option to buy is only $500,000. Get out of here. Like, people have been trying to figure out how much money did the Union have to pay to get Julian Kranze, because, into Miami, they paid $6 million. And so you figure they want to recoup some of that money. So it's probably going to be around like $3-4 million option to buy from the Union. Going to set a record. But it's not even that. I can't believe that. $500,000 to buy Julian Kranze. And I know fans are like, oh, let's go ahead and buy him right now. Let's that's so cheap. But I don't think the Union can buy him yet. They have to wait till the season's over. But Inter Miami are basically giving Julian Kranze away for free. It is. I don't get it. I mean, this is essentially how much New York City paid to get Tati Castellanos when they brought him outside of the league. Or it might have been $300,000. I think it was $300,000. So it's a little bit more than Tati Castellanos, but a lot of similarities between Julian Kranze and Tati Castellanos. But oh my gosh, $500,000. Wow. Wow. And then I talked about that ball from Jose to LA. I thought Jose Martinez controlled the game throughout the night from the middle of the field. Really great game from Jose Martinez. And my 3 stars on the night, we'll start with 3 all the way to 1, is Jose Martinez. 1 assist, 9 out of 9 on long balls. This guy's long-range passing has got better and better as the seasons have gone on. 1 interception, 6 ball recoveries, 2 out of 4 ground duels won, 2 out of 3 on aerial duels won. Jose Martinez was phenomenal up until that penalty spat on Julian Kranze. But fantastic night from Jose Martinez. Number 2, Ale Bedoya, 2 goals, 2 chances created, 3 ball recoveries, 1 interception. Phenomenal from Ale. To get a headed goal, this guy's having a career year with the Union, 5 goals on the season. 3rd on the Union this season, actually tied with Mikael Ua. So I guess that's technically 2nd because Julian and Daniel Gazlag are tied for 1st with 7. So, yeah, fantastic game from LA. And then number 1 on the night, Julian Kranze, 3 goals, 9 shots, 56 touches, 5 ball recoveries, 5 fouls drawn. This guy's a workhorse. He'll win the ball back for you. He'll draw fouls for you. But the most telling stat, and I didn't go and look for this, but one of you guys, I guess, after the show, if you want to look at this through whatever stat website you guys use, maybe you guys don't, 56 touches. I don't think a Union striker has had that many touches ever since Ernst Tanner has taken over as sporting directors. Our strikers don't get a ton of touches, and I've always said that they need to get our strikers more on the ball, whether that's Kasper, whether that's Corey Burke, whether that's Sergio, Julian, Mikael. Well, they got Julian Kranze on the ball plenty of times on the night. 9 shots on the night. Should have had more than 3 goals, but a terrific, terrific game from Julian Kranze on the night. If he doesn't win MLS Player of the Week, something's wrong in this league. Like, you guys love talking about nobody likes us, no one likes us, we don't care. Well, you can definitely continue to sing that if Julian Kranze doesn't win 1, goal of the week, and 2, MLS Player of the Week. Like, oh my gosh, 500,000, 3 goals, bicycle kick. Terrific night for Julian Kranze. But if you guys aren't following the podcast on social media, go to follow on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Free Kick Pod. Wherever you get your podcast, The Free Kick. Check out the website, thefreekick.net, and I will try my best to write about a midweek match preview against Inter Miami. There's not going to be a preview episode for that Miami game. It's just way too many games this week. Way too much going on this week. can't make it happen, guys. Love talking to different commentators, but the week's too short, and odds are we're probably not going to have a guest on for the New England game on Saturday, just because that leaves Friday and Saturday to try to record, and the commentators there, I'm sure, are going to be taking the notes, and it's just crazy week this week. I hate midweek games because it probably means I can't get a guest on the podcast, and we'll get a commentator on the podcast here hopefully next week. But yeah, just great game from the Union. Shout out again. I know I talk about it a lot. The Icarus Cup with Matt Ralph and the Brotherly game. Thanks again to those guys so much for inviting me out. Each and every one of my teammates. And just talking Union soccer, MLS, just being out there playing with you guys again. It was a lot of fun and watching a lot of great soccer on the day. But until then, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.